All right, there we go. So I'm really excited to introduce our first presenter tonight from the University of the Fraser Valley. Um, it's Renee Prasad, and Renee is an associate professor and department head for agriculture at the University of Fraser Valley. She grew up in suburbia, she says, in Coquitlam with parents and grandparents who were avid gardeners. Her family were dairy farmers in Fiji. So that's quite exciting. I bet you have lots of stories to tell about that. Um, Apologies if my internet, I'm getting notice that my internet's unstable. Before immigrating to Canada, Renee's interest is in agriculture. Her interest in agriculture grew from her lifelong love of plants, worms. Hopefully, you're going to tell us a bit more about that, insects, etc. And she loves being part of each student's journey, whether they end up working in all where they work in all the diverse areas of agriculture. So, without further ado, we're going to turn the time over to Renee. Thank you.
Yay. So thank you everyone for inviting me. I'm super happy to be here. Whether you're here and learning about the program with me today or whether you listen to the recording, I'm appreciative of that. I'm gonna also turn my camera off because my internet isn't always that awesome, and then share my screen. So hopefully that's okay for everyone. So I'm gonna turn my camera off here and I'm gonna share my screen. And could some, oopsie, that's not working. Share screen. Okay. Share. So could someone just confirm that you can see my screen? Yep, thanks, Danusia. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get, why isn't that working? Okay, let's just calmly walk through it. Screen, share, it's blank. It wasn't blank when we practiced. Okay, that's okay. It's gonna work.
We're hanging in there with you.
No, this one. So you can see it right now, correct? Okay, I'm gonna maybe not put it into presenter mode because I think for some reason it's misbehaving when it's in presenter mode. Yeah, I'm just gonna present it like this, and hopefully that can work for everyone. So I'm from the University of the Fraser Valley, and what I'm gonna do today is introduce our agriculture programs. Always when we begin our presentations, and sort of any sort of meetings, etc., at UFV and at most post-secondary institutions in BC, we always like to begin with a territorial acknowledgement. And so for today, what I wanted to use as a tool to do our territorial acknowledgement is share with you the UFV coat of arms. So the coat of arms is embedded into it lots of symbols, plants and animals that are important to the Stolo peoples. So UFV is located in the traditional territory of the Stolo people. The Stolo speak Halkomelem, and so here at the bottom of the coat of arms is the in Halkomelem. This word translates into House of Transformation, and we really like that as a way to describe a university. And the two herons that are part of the crest represent for the Stolo peoples inquisitiveness and determination. And again, I think those are great tools or great symbols of what, pursuing your education beyond K to 12 requires. You need to be inquisitive, but you also need to have that stick-to-itiveness. So during my time here, and Danusia, I'm going to count on you at 7:10. I'm going to count on you to make sure I don't go over. What I want to do is share a brief history of our program, what we offer, how we deliver our programs, where we do the delivery, explain who are the faculty, And then throughout the presentation, I want to sprinkle in some stories of alumni, because ultimately, I think that where our alumni end up is kind of the, the story we want to tell. So for example, this is a picture of some of the folks that work at the BC Chicken Marketing Board. And over right here, this lady, her name is Danny Lane. And Danny is an inspector for the one of the inspectors for the Chicken Marketing Board, and she is an alumni of our program. She graduated with a 2-year livestock diploma. So, the other thing I wanted to add is I've got some pretty nice socks I'll show you at the end. I've got 2 pairs, so I'm hoping to do a little quiz / raffle at the end. So I'm gonna maybe ask you a couple of questions. So maybe pay attention to some details here if you want to get some socks at the end. So our program started in 1974. UFV is 50 years old, and the agriculture program was one of the first programs offered at UFV. Back then, it was the College of the Fraser Valley. Last Saturday, we had an alumni farmers market that was part of our UFV 50th celebration. And one of the things that was so cool about it was we had people like Bill Shoker, who's a vegetable farmer in the Fraser Valley in Chilliwack, who graduated in 1993. And then we had Mwenda Dick, who is a recent graduate. He graduated in 2024. Bill's been selling vegetables for 30 plus years. He is a 3rd-generation farmer. Mwenda is from Manitoba, and he's a 2nd-generation farmer, but he headed out west to do, to spread his wings, but still do agriculture. And he's developed a small microgreens business. So he's pretty excited here because last Saturday he made his first set of sales with his microgreen business. He sold out all his flats. That's his basket of money. It's pretty happy. Our program continues to have students like Bill and Mwenda who come from family farms. In the past, most of our students were coming from family farms, and like Bill, we're going back to doing primary agriculture. However, increasingly now and into the future, the demographics have shifted a little bit. And so students like Mwenda, even though he's coming from a family farm and he does plan to continue farming, he's also recognizing that he will need to probably have off-farm income, and he wants to get that off-farm income still in agriculture. So now that Mwenda's completed his diploma, he is now working on his degree, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. We also have increasingly more and more students like Thomas, Gary, and Alex here who do not come from family farms, but are still very passionate about agriculture. So Garian is a graduate of a program from about 10 years ago, and now he is the provincial pesticide specialist based in Abbotsford. So he works as a agrologist. He got our diploma at UFV, and then he transferred to Olds to finish his degree. Students can still do that, but now we have our degree and they don't need to transfer. So as I mentioned, our program, we have several different programs at UFV. We have 2-year programs, or what we call diplomas, in livestock / animal science and horticulture. And then we are also actively developing an agribusiness option. So this would be for those students who are interested in a career in finance, agricultural loans, etc. We have a 4-year Bachelor of Ag Science major that is now 6 years old. So it came a little bit after Garian was ready to do bachelor's. Right now, that major is a horticulture major. With 6 years of experience with the Bachelor of Ag Science horticulture major, we now are able to work out some of the kinks, and we are reviewing our horticulture major, working out the kinks, and simultaneously working on developing our livestock major. So that should be ready, we're hoping, fingers crossed, in 2 years. We're also actively in the process of developing a Bachelor of Science route that can have an agriculture major. So right now at UFV, the Bachelor of Science degree has a biology, chemistry, physics, or math major, as well as computer science, but we want to add agriculture to this. I just want to add, because I know there's a lot of interest in pre-vet, especially among the 4-H crowd, that UFV does have embedded within the Bachelor of Science biology major a pre-vet concentration. So I would definitely encourage you to sort of check out the biology website to learn more about that if you're interested. And students in the pre-vet concentration can take classes in agriculture. One of the reasons our program is structured in this 2-year and 4-year route, we are slowly moving away from our 1-year programs, is because we're hearing from students as well as employers that employability after graduation is higher if students have at least a 2-year program, if not a 4-year program. And what we're using really as our guide for this is the BC Institute of Agrologists, or the acronym that I might refer to is BCIA. And I'm guessing that you probably will have in the future or already have had some presentations by BCIA. So diploma graduates are eligible for what we call technical agrology status, and bachelor graduates are eligible for professional agrology designation. So Gillian, who I showed you a few minutes ago, he is a professional agrologist, a PAG, whereas Danny here would be a technical agrologist. So regardless of the pathway that a student chooses, whether they're taking a diploma or a degree, doing the livestock or horticulture pathways, there are a core set of classes that all students take together. And these include classes in soils management, pest management, agroecology, agribusiness, food safety, communications, as well as an on-farm practicum and farm safety course. One of the things you can do if you're curious about programs and what will I learn in courses is you can go ahead and Google UFV official course outlines, and you will find all the course outlines for all the different programs at UFV. And if you click on the agriculture ones, there's a list of all the courses, and you click on the most recent link within a course number, and then that'll tell you, overall what you learn in the course and what is involved. So here is another alumna. This is Christy Bobetsis. She works at Richie Smith Feeds now. She is in the nutrition end of Richie Smith. One of the things we really like about this delivery, where we have students in a core set of classes and then taking livestock courses separately from horticulture classes, is that by forcing all students to take pest management, for example, or all students to take soils, for example, it really does equip students with some knowledge, not just of, for example, poultry, which is what they're interested in when they're 18, or dairy when they're 18, but it equips them with some broader knowledge in agriculture. And really, what we're learning from our alumni, what we have been learning from our alumni over the past 50 years, is that sometimes you just don't know what the future holds when you're starting out, when you're 18 or 19. So it's kind of good to have a bit of breadth. And no one exemplifies that for me more than Cornell. This is Cornell. I remember teaching Cornell, and he was interested in livestock, in poultry, and in dairy. He still does poultry, but now here he is at the farmer's market where he's selling hazelnuts. And he's also a blueberry farmer. So hazelnuts and blueberries, you're applying a lot of pest management knowledge there. So, I like to think that he is able to learn broadly, or he's able to apply all the broad learning that he had in his farming life now. What I'd like to do now is just show you some photographs and link them to our program learning outcomes so you can understand sort of our approach to delivering our courses. So I'm going to share with you our 8 program learning outcomes. These are sort of the broad outcomes that each of our courses in different ways tries to address. So the first 2 are align knowledge and understanding of scientific and business principles to the applied practice of agrology, and then integrate principles of sustainability into applications to support Canada's commitments to the UN SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals. as applied to agriculture production. So that means in the lecture portion of our classes, we really do go right down to the basic science and theory of how plants work, of how animals work. We spent a lot of time in the livestock classes talking about the rumen, for example, in the dairy and ruminant classes, and really understanding what's going on there at the scientific basis. When we then move from the in-class portion of a lecture to the hands-on portion, then we're out practicing what we've just learned about. So for example, if we're talking about energy efficiency in the greenhouse sector, then we've got students who are doing all sorts of small experiments on their own, looking at LED lights and aquaponics, maybe growing vertically and seeing what that's like. Here we are in our outdoor classroom, and the students are planting some fruit trees, and that's part of what we would be talking about in that class is how planting more trees, planting more shrubs. There's lots of evidence to show that one of the benefits to agriculture is it can help sequester carbon. And in some places, growers are getting paid for that carbon sequestration. I'd like to point out that this is Gabriel Comparmo, and he's a former 4-H student who's also a grad of our program. And right now, Gabriel is, I believe, traveling the world doing agriculture. So here are 3 more learning outcomes. These ones have to do with research. So synthesize information in the scientific literature to identify evidence-based best practices for agriculture, apply research to investigate solutions to agricultural challenges, and effectively communicate results of research to experts and the broader public via both written and oral modes of communication. So sometimes people find this sort of emphasis in research a bit surprising, but what we know is that agriculture is really an evidence-based practice, as this bullet point points out, and we want students to understand how research works, and the best way to understand that is to actually do small research projects as part of your coursework. So here the students are in our lab and they're learning how to do tissue culture. Here you can see that we've got our calves that are on campus for the dairy class, and we do group housing, and we talk to the students about all the research to show sort of the welfare benefits of group housing for calves. So we link the research with the practice, understanding that our students are maybe going to graduate and be more at the practitioner end, but some of them are going to maybe end up being more at the researcher end, or in the middle, trying to bridge the two. Increasingly, what we're finding is that more and more of our alumni are going on to grad school. And this, again, is something they did not imagine for themselves when they were 18. So again, one of the advantages of being at a smaller school is you just get that opportunity to get your hands wet doing a lot of research, either through your work connections. So this is Stefan. He ended up doing a very cool project looking at gibberellic acid, which is a type of hormone, and its use in blueberry production to help with fruit set, and that was done through his employment. And we were able to turn that research into one of his projects for his Bachelor of Ag Science. This is Beverly, and this is Karen. And both Beverly and Karen did our livestock diploma, and they went on to go to University of Saskatchewan. Oh, Karen went to University of Saskatchewan to do her undergrad. Beverly went to Lethbridge University to finish her undergrad and get her bachelor. Then they both went to University of Saskatchewan to get their master's degrees. So this is me meeting up with them in Saskatoon. It was a really special day to see them both. Karen's now working in the feed industry, and Bev is on the last legs of finishing up her degree, her master's degree. Okay, a couple more learning outcomes and delivery slides. So the last 3 learning outcomes are contribute to a collaborative, diverse, multidisciplinary field of practice in agrology, use knowledge and skills developed for application in the chosen field of agrology, and ethically engage with Indigenous ways of knowing and diverse perspectives in the field of biology. So what all of this means is that we're always having our students think about what they're learning and how they would communicate and share and collaborate across different fields of study. This is that idea of multidisciplinarity to make agriculture better. And so when we are talking about dairy cows, here we have a dairy cow in our demonstration barn. The students are practicing it. If you come from a dairy farm, then the single stall milker seems kind of corny. But if you are not from a farm background, then the single stall milker is a very nice place to learn how all of this works. But in addition to learning how to milk a cow and how the rumen works and understanding the science of animal welfare, we also talk about how do we manage waste? What are the environmental impacts of dairy farming? How can we reduce those environmental impacts? Here the students are out on a field trip, and we're learning about how the Stolo traditionally managed land using fire as a tool for helping to sort of rejuvenate and reestablish some of their traditional patches for collecting berries, for example. And you know, in parts of British Columbia and Canada right now, there's a conversation around using fire to maybe help reduce the intensity of forest fires. So that sort of knowledge is again woven into our program. Again, just to point out our alumni, here's Caden, who's an 4-H alum and a UFV alumni now. And here is Evan, who's another 4-H'er, who's also UFV alumni. And Caden, after finishing his livestock diploma, is now back working away at his Bachelor of Ag Science. And he's patiently waiting for us to develop the livestock degree. So he's getting a lot of his foundational biology and chemistry and stats courses done. One of the reasons the multidisciplinary approach is really important to us is because the direction that our university is going is towards this idea of One Health, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's this idea of really looking at public health, animal health, and environmental health as being linked, and that each of them impacts the other. And so we're fortunate at UFV in that our agriculture program, we have a nursing program, we have an environmental studies program. So all of these can interact in this sort of One Health context with that multidisciplinarity. So where does our teaching happen? So our main agricultural campus is at the UFV Chilliwack site. This is where most of all of your agriculture classes happen. I thought this would turn out better, but this is the Chilliwack River. For those of you who are curious, there's a lot of people fishing on that river this last week. So this is our barn over here. These are our greenhouses. We have 2 poly houses, and this is the area we call our outdoor classroom. We have a small building, that's where some of our classes are. And then our lab is up in the main A building. On Abbotsford campus, I'm sorry, students are taking their communications and other courses. If you are wanting to live on campus, right now, on-campus housing is on Abbotsford campus. So sorry. But there is a shuttle that goes between 2 campuses. I do want to point out that, yep.
You can feel free if you want to take a pause and grab a drink of water or whatever you need.
Okay, thank you. One.
Yeah.
All right. I'm almost done too, so thank you for that. I want to point out for those of you who might be curious about, because most students do find they need to work in order to be able to afford their post-secondary. There are lots of opportunities for off-campus agricultural work, especially if you are interested in dairy, for example, or greenhouse or nursery. and those are around Chilliwack and Abbotsford. There's a high concentration, as you probably know, of agriculture in the Fraser Valley, in Chilliwack and Abbotsford. So here's just a few pictures, whoops, of our students in our teaching spaces, right? So this is our greenhouse looking, kind of super green and tall. So it doesn't always look like that, but it looks good in that picture for sure. Here are some students in the lab. They're doing a soils lab, learning how to do the soil analysis. Again, as a producer or as a consultant working for growers, you're not necessarily going to be doing the actual soil chemistry, but it's really important that in your journey of learning about soil science, you understand how that work is done. We have, as part of our outdoor classroom, we have the capacity then to make sure students know how to use some common farm equipment. So again, I think for most 4-Hers, you all probably know how to drive a tractor and a skid steer, but not everyone does. So it's just good to make sure that everyone's coming away with those skills. We have in our demonstration barn an area for layers and also for broilers. And then we bring in some small ruminants. Here's a few goats. And then the students are responsible for chores and looking after the animals. Our flocks are never very big, or our herds that we bring in are never very big. And that's because there's, sort of strict rules we follow as part of animal welfare to minimize the number of animals that are used. Right now, we don't maintain a herd for research purposes the way they do at UBC Dairy. So that's why we have sort of a small number of animals, but we find it is sufficient for students to get their hands dirty. Okay. Keep losing my cursor. Oh my goodness. Sorry, my computer is being so weird. Okay. So in addition to the learning that's happening on campus, in our barn, in our greenhouse, in our outdoor classroom, or in our lab, and yes, we do sit in a classroom and have lectures. It's just those are very boring pictures. You all know what those look like. We do also a lot of field trips. We have a lot of hosts that are okay with us coming out and spending time talking to us, and we really appreciate that. So here we have on the far left, some students out on a field trip in one of my classes where we're looking at soil health out in the sumac. Here we've got students at a vegetable greenhouse, and here we've got students at a local dairy farm learning about forage production and siling, etc. As one of the elements of our learning as well is that all students do either a 3-week practicum or a co-op term. The students who are doing a diploma are doing a practicum. Students who are doing a degree have the option of either a practicum or a 4-month practicum, or a 4-month co-op, sorry. So here's a couple of students on their practicums. This is Miguel, he is at the Eco Dairy, and this is Jeremy, and he is at a pepper greenhouse. So just a couple more slides. So who's doing the teaching? Who are your faculty? So in this picture, we have a few, like our main faculty. Again, I keep losing my cursor. So this is Dr. Javad Hadain. He's our horticultural specialist. He teaches most of our horticulture courses. This is Lauren Erland, Dr. Lauren Erland. She is our berry researcher. So Lauren's main job is actually to do research, but she also teaches our fruit production and seminar courses. This is our new hire, Dr. Chris Bodner. Chris is from a background in communications, but his expertise is in agribusiness, so he's been hired for that. That's me. And I'm out there with my summer student, Alex. And I work a lot on pest management, mostly in field vegetables or in cranberries. And then this is Dr. Dieter Giesing, who is the soil scientist at the Ministry of Agriculture in Abbotsford, but he's also a sessional instructor in our program. So what I wanted to convey by showing you all of our faculty in the field or outside is that while we all have our PhDs and we understand the theory of what we're talking about, we all do research, we also are all doing agriculture because we're passionate about the practice. And so we have lots of hands-on experience. Javad and Chris both grew up on farms. Myself and Dieter have lots of experience being consultants to growers. And Lauren's research is driven entirely by what growers need. So this research that she's showing in the background, she's looking at the impacts of climate change on cranberry production, and she's doing it at the Cranberry Research Farm in Delta. We also have a lot of guest speakers and people from industry coming into our classroom who are helping with the teaching delivery. So for example, this is Travis Hopcott. He's an alumni of our program. He's from Hopcott Farms. And so he's here. He's a listener to our final enterprise project presentations. This is Dr. Brent Fawcett, who's a veterinarian who comes in regularly for our ruminant health class. And this is Molly Thurston. Molly is an agrologist in Kelowna. And one of the things she specializes in is pesticide application and sprayer calibration and proper use. So she actually joined us at a field trip in the Sumas in January. It was super cold. You can see she's bundled up. But she walked us through how to properly calibrate a sprayer, and it was excellent. So we really do find a lot of benefit in bringing folks in with on-the-ground experience into the classroom to really talk about the practices, the best practices, as I mentioned earlier, to the students. So I think that is the end of my presentation. My computer decided to be crazy. Let me just find my arrow. There we go. Okay, so thank you for listening. I have 2 links here. If you are curious about UFV Agriculture, what I would recommend is you go to our website, which is just, if you Google UFV Agriculture, you will get it. We have an Instagram account, and that sort of lets you know all the things that we're up to and who's joining the team, where people are, the field trips we've been doing, etc. And here's again Sarah and Kaden, 2 4-Hers. Also, what we have is a future students website that's really excellent. It kind of gives you a bigger picture of what it means to be at UFV, etc. So I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm going to put my camera on. I'm going to show you our cool socks that are my raffle. So you see that one side is horticulture and one side is animals. I hope you think those are cool. And is it okay, Danusia, if I do the question now? Okay, so I'll just, hopefully I can ask an easy one. I mentioned an organization called BCIA. Does anyone remember what BCIA stands for? Anybody? No. Okay, let me try one more. And if it doesn't work, oh well, I will maybe just draw some names out of a hat. Does anyone remember where some of our alumni worked? Can you remember where I mentioned at least one of our alumni worked? Is anybody there? Yep, go ahead, Lily.
I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure you remembered like poultry farms somewhere.
Okay, yep, we'll take that. We have a student who works at with the chicken marketing board, and so
Right.
she's one of the inspectors. So Danusia will help me get this to you, Lily. That's a
Awesome.
great job. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm done.
Well, thank you very much, Renee, for an excellent presentation. Awesome. So we're all going to just like virtually clap and thank you for a job well done. I appreciate that. I'll turn the time over to Gillian Watt. And Gillian, maybe you have it in your presentation. If you don't, if you could give us just maybe a brief introduction of yourself and your background before you start, that would be great.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Gillian Watt, and I did my Bachelor of Science in Agriculture at UBC, and I did my MBA in Agriculture at University of Guelph. And I was a 4-H member, a beef club member actually, for I think at least 10 years, maybe 12. So I feel like I learned the foundation of a lot of my abilities in the 4-H program. And one of my jobs as I was going through university was the 4-H summer assistant out of Vernon. I was a regional 4-H summer assistant for 2 summers. So yeah, 4-H is really near and dear to my heart. Yeah, I'm excited to be speaking to 4-H members across the province. Yeah, so I'm speaking to you today as the director of the Regenerative Agriculture Program at Thompson Rivers University. And this program has been going on for, we're in our 10th cohort now, so we're relatively a new program. And we just restructured last year after we did a program review. So we changed our name from Applied Sustainable Ranching to Regenerative Agriculture. And we've made a few structural changes to our program. So we're really excited about it. Yeah. First of all, I wanted to just start with some of the careers in agriculture and natural resource management and agribusiness. So some of the positions our alumni hold. Many of our alumni become agriculture entrepreneurs and they start their own businesses, or they go home to their home farm or their home ranch and take over. A lot of our young people, though, that graduate, or a lot of our alumni, they start their own farms and ranches, either by leasing property to begin with, or by help from their parents buying a small acreage and then slowly growing it. Some of our alumni become land or range managers for a company or a development corporation or a ranch, or a First Nations corporation. We've had a few alumni become range technicians with the Ministry of Forests. And a few of our alumni have also become managers of development corporations, either for businesses or for Indigenous communities. Food sovereignty coordinators as well. Some of our graduates go into the banking sector and become account managers in agriculture, customer service or retail managers in seed, irrigation, or equipment sales. And also a few of our consultants have gone to work consulting or in government for government agencies like nonprofits as well, like Invasive Weed Councils of BC. So we have a wide array of positions our graduates have taken, and these are only just a few to start, but yeah. So the TRU ranching program was it was started originally, the program was developed by an industry advisory board with experts from a wide range of sectors, from vegetables to beef production to sheep to pasture pork, and just a wide variety of people that were successful in the industry, and they came together and they helped develop the program. And they gave me advice, and from there I kind of put together it, and then we went back and forth for a year really before we actually launched the program. So it was built by a team of wide-ranging experts in BC agriculture to address the changing needs of agriculture in our province. So yeah. I'm just got to move things. So our program is unique. We get a lot of international students from all over the world coming to learn about regenerative agriculture. And this is just a picture from a group during orientation week. I think it was not this September, but the one before. But we've attracted students, like I say, here from Ghana and Nigeria and Africa to India, Germany, Switzerland, Mexico, Belgium, Spain. And then in Canada, Newfoundland, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Quebec, and Ontario. And we've recently had a student from Brazil join us as well. 2 students actually from Brazil. Yeah. How is our program unique? So really it's kind of it's twofold, or a very applied program. That's what the industry advisory board wanted. They want it to be a very applied program where graduates come out and they really have some hands-on skills. So we have a lot of hands-on learning on host farms and ranches, and we don't have tests in our program. We have real life assignments. So students, every time, like as their assignments in their courses are based on whatever they're doing. Say if they're doing human resource management, then they have to do a human resource management plan. If they're doing a biodiversity plan, they have to do a biodiversity. If they're learning about biodiversity, they have to do a biodiversity plan for a particular farm or ranch. So they're all based on real life assignments, and that was based on kind of what I did when I was doing my MBA at University of Guelph. Everything, there was no tests. It was all based on real life assignments. And so that's how we built. That was the foundation of the TRU Regenerative Agriculture Program. The other leg is sustainability. We combine natural resource management with business and enterprise management. So those are our 2 strong pillars, is a real strong foundation in soil health and learning how to grow livestock and crops and whatever by putting organic matter back into the soil rather than depleting their soils. And so we have a real focus on soil health and how to improve productivity while reducing inputs, costly inputs like fertilizers and chemicals and pesticides and things like that. Working with nature rather than against her. The other unique part of our program is that we're a block-based learning management system. So rather than students coming in and having 4 or 5 courses at a time and then, going through them all, the students all just take 1 course at a time. And each course is 3 weeks in length, and it's a 3-credit course. So rather than taking 5 courses at a time for a whole semester, you're taking 1 course for 3 weeks, and that's a 3-credit course. So you really get into that course. And you combine, so there's 20 hours per week of academic with 20 hours per week of work experience on host farms and ranches. So students come together 1 day a week for a seminar or a field trip, depending if it's the winter or the summer, and with their instructor and specialists in the area. And the remaining days, they complete assignments through Moodle, and then they're working on the ranches. So usually Mondays for first-year students and Tuesdays for second-year students is our seminar or field trip day. And the rest of the week, you're working on the host farm and you're completing your assignments as well. You're kind of working out your hours with the host farm and saying, okay, I need this day for assignments, or I need, half a day a week or half a day every day of the week for assignments. However you work it, but you learn to manage your academic with your work life. So yeah, the program length is a 2-year. It's a 2-year diploma. And what does this say here? I just got to move this out of the way. Sorry. Okay, so now I'm just going into the actual courses. So this is Regen 1010, and it's the first course. It's a residency lab, first week of September, and it's also the host farm practicum. It's where you start to develop your learning outcomes that you want. What do you want to learn during your first year on your host farms. What are the learning outcomes you want? And so then we've got that really, you get that really targeted down, and then you make sure that the host farms that you've planned, sometimes it's one farm, sometimes it's many, that you are with, that you can learn those learning competencies while you're on that farm. If not, then we find new farms, or we work together to find new farms where you can obtain those learning competencies in terms of the applied side. So these is what we do in our Gen 1010. We do orientation, and we have a lot of guest speakers come in that week, and everybody comes together in the classroom for 5 days, which is fun. And then in the afternoons, we do farm tours. And we learn the power of regenerative agriculture and how to build resilience into future farming and ranching operations. And yeah, so that was just a picture of the class of 2 years ago, the year before last, yeah, out on a field trip. And then after 1010, we go into Regen 1060, which is enterprise analysis, produce and greenhouse diversification. And then the same right after that, 3 weeks, we do enterprise analysis, livestock diversification, and pastured meats. So during that time, students really we're doing field trips every week, and they're going to successful farms that are very successful in doing whatever enterprise we're studying. And then the students choose which enterprise they want to do, and then they do a gross margin analysis, and I teach them how to do an enterprise analysis to determine whether it's got a good fit for what they're all about and what their farm's about, or their virtual farm's about, and whether it produces a good return on investment. So students are getting a really good handle on doing spreadsheets and a real business acumen they're developing. And then we do 1040, which is applied skills. We do stockmanship, stock dog, fencing, equipment maintenance, and then ag safety and emergency preparedness. So we do that over those 3 weeks. And that's all those are field days as well. And then in Regen 1050, they begin to organize their research project that they're going to do under the testing viability with on-farm research. So this is a 3-credit course. And they plan their research in the first week in the fall, and then in the summer they implement their research, and then the following fall they report on their research. And they're doing all that with Dr. Catherine Tarasoff, who is really, really great, and she's been teaching farmers how to do applied on-farm research for a few years, so she's an expert on it. And yeah. This is a picture of our stockmanship clinic that we do during the applied skills course. And then, so that was the fall courses. Now we get into the business courses in February, 1st of February. You have December and January off. And then in February, we start with strategic management and leadership. We do a lot of financial management and enterprise forecasting, and that's where you'd really develop your financial plan for your organization that you want to build. Then you do marketing, communications, and conflict resolution, and human resources and land resources. So those are the kind of the bundle of courses that you're with me for. And those courses are all on, again, 1 seminar day a week. It's on a Monday. And those are done through Zoom, because now it's the winter months. It's hard to travel. And so everybody is coming in through Zoom, and we spend Mondays together on Zoom. And it's pretty interactive. It's not a large lecture. It's like a 1 to 1.5 hour lecture. And then students break off into groups, and then they do their assigned project, and then they come back and report, and they do a presentation, and it's really fun, and we critique each other and have a lot of fun. And then we get back into the summer months with our Gen 1030, biodiversity, invasive species, riparian, and watershed management. And students then are back out on field trips on the Monday. And then they do 3 weeks of intro to soils, soil health, and practical applications of building soils with organics. And again, that's three Mondays of field trips and lectures with that course. And then in 11:30, you have 2 weeks of range ecology and 1 week of grazing management. Again, all field trip based. And then we go into the second year. So then that takes us to the end. So June, the end of June, you're finished your first year, but you have had December and January off. So you can go home if you like, and you can, work for those months. You can go on a holiday or whatever you do. Or you can, sometimes people stay on their host farms and work through the winter as well. And then come September for your second year, we go into really the enterprise courses. So we look at beef nutrition and herd health. That's a 3-week course. Beef genetics, mapping, and tech and ag, 3-week course. Then we do sheep production, flock health, and nutrition. And these pictures are out at a field trip at Avalee Ranch in Vavenby, looking at how to scale up sheep production in the interior of British Columbia and all of the things you have to be aware of. And so that's a really fun field day. As you can see, it's a little cold there. And then in 2030, we do winter forage production. And then in February to May, there's introduction to tourism, marketing, and product development, regenerative ag tourism, business strategy, and applied project. And then in 2080, I think that starts in the middle of March. Students, this is a new course, food sovereignty, and that program's really connecting our soils to our health and how to build local food systems at a local level and a community type of an approach, and how to do that from the ground up. And then we go into 2090, which is Secwepemc Laws of the Land. And that's just a really powerful course as well. And that's giving students an appreciation of medicinal plants and the culinary uses of some of the plants as well. And that's taught by an Indigenous elder. And there's a lot about burning and fire, the use of fire, and just, yeah, it's just a wonderful, wonderful course that changes everyone's perspective. And it's a really group-based course. So a lot of your assignments in that course are based on group work. And then our final course is 2050, and that's your final project and comprehensive business and operations plan. And that's where you put all of your assignments you've done throughout the whole 2 years. You bring them together in a comprehensive business and operations plan. And I am the instructor for that. And then you guys have probably all heard of the Dragon's Den, where entrepreneurs come in and pitch their business. So we do that, and we call it, instead of a Dragon's Den, we call it the Bull's Den pitch. And students come in, and we have a panel of industry entrepreneurs who are very successful from different sectors, and from tourism, beef, sheep, pasture pork, pasture poultry, market gardening, all of the different ones. And then students pitch their plans, and then the winner gets $1,000. Anyways, it's really fun. It's a really fun kind of the last part of the year. And then after that, you graduate. Yeah. And so this here is a picture. It's a really fun picture. The bottom on the left is myself and Lee Hesketh. And Lee Hesketh and I were at Provincial Club Week together 45 years ago. We were at Provincial Club Week in Naramata, at both 4-H alumni, and Lee teaches a portion of our riparian management course. So it's pretty fun. So it's really fun to know that the 4-Hers are still going strong. Now we're teaching agriculture programs. So yeah. And the one on the right is a picture of the Dean of Science at the time. He's now since retired, in a range ecology and biodiversity course field trip. Yeah. And we also have a lot of awards. So one thing about TRU is we have quite a high percentage of student awards. And we have a lot of really great transferability eligibility. So students coming out of our 2-year diploma can go right into the 3rd year of the Olds College Applied Bachelor in Agriculture Business Program. They do the 3rd year at Olds, and then their 4th year, they're out on a job doing their 4th year working, and they get their degree. So really 1 more year in school after our program, and you can get your degree at Olds, which is a really good option. And this girl here, Katrina, she went to Olds and got her degree. Yeah. And another option is you can go on and do your Bachelor's of Natural Resource Science at TRU, and then go on to be either a biologist, a forester, or an agrologist from that program, or all 3. And you can also go on to get your Bachelor of Business from our program. Yeah. And like I said, there are many awards available. 3 of the large awards are just for the Regenerative Agriculture Program. And this lady here at the bottom on the right is Darlene Frieding. And her husband, Bill Frieding, the late Bill Frieding, was a 4-H judge for many years and a big advocate of the program. And he was actually my first beef judge when I was at the Provincial Winter Fair in Kamloops. And they have donated $100,000 to TRU for scholarships. So every year, 2 students come away with $5,000 awards for the Regen program. So thank you to the Bill and Darlene Frieding for that. Yeah. And this is just a photo of another 4-H'er, Lauren Bedford, who came into our program. We have a dual credit program as well. So she came into our program in her grade 12 year. She did our diploma, and then she went on to Olds and got her degree in agribusiness. And then she went to Australia and worked for 2 years on large ranches and stations over there. And now she's come back, and she's the ag liaison for Community Futures in Williams Lake. So yeah, that's a really happy story. And I'm now working with Lauren actually and putting on an event in Williams Lake in November. So it's very fun. And that's all I have. So thanks for listening.
Awesome. Really great. Thank you so much, Gillian, for joining us tonight and for that presentation. And to Renee as well for taking some time out of her evening and sharing some information about the University of the Fraser Valley. And so I didn't